Red wines, now, more difficult because here there is just such a difference in texture, in richness, in acidity. And so today I'm going to show them New World against Old World, as we've done with the whites, to try and show and explain how the climate really does affect the change in the grape varieties. And we're going to look at classic grape varieties, which, although on their own are easy to identify, in so many wines there isn't just the one grape variety, there is a blend of them. And so I'm going to try and expand upon that and help them understand that from the basis of understanding these one grape varieties, they can build on how the wines are blended together to enhance that one style of grape variety. It'll be almost like a cookery course, I hope. I'm afraid we've got a bit of a marathon ahead of us now, so we're into the red wine stage. And although I thought about just doing 4 wines, we've really got to do 6 to try and cover all the bases.
How disappointed are we looking, Zoe?
I know, more is definitely more.
So what I'm going to do, to try and give us a broad view of red wine, we're going to taste, with the same theory as the white, a New World grape variety against an Old World. So we're going to have, the first wine we'll taste is Pinot Noir from New Zealand, where we'll capture all the lovely jammy fruit in there. And then we're going to taste against that an Old World Pinot Noir, and we're going to go to Burgundy in France, which is regarded as, you know, its home territory. And we're going to taste a Gevrey Chambertin made from very old vines. Then we're going to move on and we're going to taste Cabernet Sauvignon, which is the grape variety famous from the region of Bordeaux in France. But now we're going to taste a New World Cabernet Sauvignon called Porcupine Ridge. And this is from South Africa. The Cabernet Sauvignon grape does extraordinarily well in South Africa and is slightly Old World in style. So we'll just see how well that sits up against a classic from Bordeaux. And we're going to drink Chateau Caron Saint-Gemme 2004 from Bordeaux against that. And then the last grape variety I'm going to pick is Shiraz, or as it's known in the Old World, Syrah. And Shiraz makes the really big, dark, heavy wines, really famous in Australia, where they grow it on their red, dusty soil. And so we've got one from Australia, from the McLaren Vale, and then we're going to move over and try Syrah grown from old vines down in the south of France, from an area called the Minervois, and just see how they differ in style. Immediately, the colour is different of the two. And oddly enough, the climate is playing tricks on us now, because you would expect with the New World wine it to be from a fruitier environment, hotter climate, and it would be darker. But here, oddly enough, they're the other way around.
Why?
It's just the style of winemaking that's gone on and the vintage that the Old World wine has come from. This is where the mystery gets rather larger and thicker and more difficult. When we were looking at the white wines, do you remember we discussed that a white wine, as it gets older, gets darker in colour, and a red wine, as it ages, gets lighter. And so with these two here, as the one on the left, the Gevrey Chambertin, the Old World, gets older, it will get considerably lighter than this. Ideally, you'd probably put this in your cellar for another 2 or 3 years. And I suspect when we taste it, we'll find it leaves traces of tannin. And tannin's going to become a constant word through here, particularly when we get to the last two. And tannin is a preservative element in wine, and it's gained from the outside of the skin, and also it's gained from the oak. All of these wines will have spent time in oak, maturing and gaining a little bit more body, and they draw from the oak a level of tannin. And tannin, the clue to the word is in it. Tannin, it means to tan, and it comes from the method or the chemical reaction that alcohol has in your palate, and it creates a leathery effect in your mouth, and it absorbs moisture. And when wines are very young and they have lots of tannin in them, it just leaves your mouth feeling very dry. So let's have a go. The first one on the right, our Pinot Noir from Marlborough, New Zealand. And the colour is a lovely, healthy, plummy colour. And that's exactly what you're hoping from Pinot Noir pretty much anywhere in the world when it's got a little bit of maturity on it. So, and let's have a little sniff. Now I'm hoping you're going to get some strawberry come raspberry, but this is quite rich strawberry and raspberry.
Really,
Marzipan
really
is.
rich.
Yep. And a little meaty, little grilled meat almost.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very powerful. Oh, and that's
It's
sort of
very
big
potent.
grape. That says big grape to me.
It's interesting, isn't it? And it's but now coming behind it, as it aerates a little bit more. These glasses are very good for doing this. It'll start to change in the glass, and hopefully now you'll get a sort of plumminess that'll come around the back. And there's also a smell that is very peculiar. It's hard to imagine, but we call it lily roots.
What does that mean?
And if you've had lilies in the room for a while, it's an element of lilies just as they're getting a little old and a little vegetable
Right. Yeah.
in the mouth and a swirl. And there's quite a nice balanced fruit there. You've got vegetal flavours, you've got little bits of tinned fruit. There is sort of strawberries and dark, almost black cherry fruits in there. Let's go and try the Gevrey Charbatat. The colour, as I said, is dark. As it ages, this will lighten up a lot. So, lovely healthy colour, a little bit on the nose.
Smells sweeter.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
Much
I can't
sweeter.
smell that there is I can't place. There's something there. I can't put it into words, but it's quite distinctive.
Can I try a few words? Little bits of damson.
Yeah.
You've got damson, little rose petal, and then you've got grilled meat. And
It's the
that-
grilled meat. That's carbonised. Just
Exactly that.
That is exactly what it is.
It's when meat has got grilled and you get a sweetness from it. They are in two different leagues, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. Yeah, that just now smells like a poor man's cousin. The New World one. Yeah, you can smell the sophistication in that old world, definitely in the France.
Let's give it a taste. In the mouth, you've got all sorts of lovely flavours, haven't you? It's got a very broad base. I'm afraid compared to the lovely Oyster Bay, which was very elegant and delightful, but this is much more complex. It's reflected in the price, and when you want to find nice burgundies, they're not altogether easy to come across, and when you're shopping, you have to be quite careful. So let's have a little taste of these two. Looking at the colours side by side, you've got a little bit of purple in the New World,
Yeah.
and just a little bit of browning on the edge of the Old World. And I suspect what would be quite fun here is just to do a little tablecloth test and lean
Yeah.
them on.
It's quite interesting because I noticed that straight away. That's more of a pinky, purpley red, whereas that one is more of a red, a
It's
dark
a real,
red.
almost a sort of agate, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's really dark and very rich. That purpley colour suggests, to me, it suggests youth. It's a bit more vibrant, and in fact, the vintages that we've got here is 2008, I think, on that South African. 2009, I beg his pardon, on the Porcupine Ridge. So this is very youthful versus a wine 5 years older, and the colours do demonstrate that aging. And so when you're served that in a restaurant, if you don't know what you've been served, you could see from that colour this is quite a youthful wine. But let's go and have a little nose, and you can really give them a good whiz around. When wine is young, it holds its fruit in a very tight fashion. It gets very difficult to pull out the individual flavours, and you tend to get faced, as we had earlier on, with what we could describe as a wall of fruit. And in here, for me, I can sense all sorts of different things going on, but it's terribly hard to pull out individual flavours.
You know it's
Great.
big, but so you can't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah, it's just a big fruity smell.
Is there anything you can pick out of there? I'm going to try and place one thought in your mind because it's just creeping in there. And with Cabernet Sauvignon, you sometimes get a smell which sounds nasty, and we call it wet dog blanket. And it's just
Didn't
that
see that one.
slight hint of wet dog blanket. And when you sense that, you know you're being served a Cabernet Sauvignon. You haven't got it, have you?
Nice.
Good. It's probably not a bad thing not to find.
No.
Let's have a taste then.
Oh, it's sharp and zesty, isn't it? It's all that fruit you can...
And it's rich, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
rich and toasty and oaky. And then the tannins start to just dry out
Coat
on the top
your
of the
mouth.
mouth
Yeah, it's all going on, isn't it?
and whiz around. But all the way through, there's this sweet, rich overtone.
Is that a very alcoholic wine? Because it tastes.
It does, it
really
tastes.
tastes.
It's 14.5.
Oh gosh, it is.
It's moving up. It's moving up to the top end. Well spotted. Now let's go to the old world. And 2004, I was explaining vintages are important here. 2004 was really a very lovely year. In fact, since 2000, if we just go back over the decade, we have had just a run of lovely vintages. And it's been very difficult to pick a really lousy year out of the whole decade. Let's have a little sniff of this.
It's not as big as
Yeah.
the South African at all.
That's why I straight away went back to that, because that's bigger, which is odd because I thought the old world, you know, I thought that Bordeaux would have been really quite something else, especially with it being, you know, the year that it is. I'm a bit disappointed.
But actually, you know what? If you get your nose back in there, there's sort of more going on.
It's
It's
quite
almost like-
gentle and
yeah.
subtle. I wanted a big, powerful hit of it. Like,
But sitting in here is a lovely, subtle herb and jam pop
Yeah.
fruit. And it is very elegant.
Yeah, there's herb. You can taste. You can smell the herbs.
And it's deciding with wine whether you want to have a sort of a relationship with a brick wall or you want something a little more subtle. And for me, I've got big and bold sitting in my new world. And then here, I'm having to think about this one a little bit. It's not doing it all for me. And I know it's got some secret hidden gems lurking in there.
You know what? It doesn't come up to expectations for me. I think because it was Bordeaux, it's 2004, a lot of hype. It's good, but that doesn't do it in the way that I thought it would.
I'm shocked to say it, but I think I prefer the New World. And I just didn't think the New World would ever be better than an Old World when it came to that. I'm just quite shocked.
Now, for me, first of all, the New World is all Cabernet Sauvignon, whereas the Old World is a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and other grape varieties. So we've got Merlot in there and we've got Cabernet Franc in there. So we've got a slightly different combination. And the way that it has evolved means that the flavours have broken up a little bit. You haven't got that concentrated jammy fruit, but now when you taste it, I get a whole layer of flavours. And I've just got more going on there, but it is lighter, much lighter in style.
Can I say, sorry, that I've now just gone back to smell that? I mean, obviously the air is constantly, you know, generating the flavour in it, but that now smells to me, that New World one, like a dirty ashtray.
It's got really quite thick, hasn't it? Yep.
Really thick.
So we've gone
oaky.
beyond the dog basket,
You're right.
really.
Yeah, isn't it really, it's very
right.
ashy, really burnt.
Yeah.
Good words. So let's have a look, first of all, at the Shiraz in our right-hand glass, and obviously the Syrah in our left, and wonderfully dense wines. But then if we just have a look at the colour of those two, and they are, I mean, they're hugely similar, aren't they? But I think with the tablecloth test again, under deep scrutiny, just the modest amount of purpliness in our Syrah
Yeah,
in the
the
old
Syrah's
world.
got more pinky, purpley
A little bit
going
of
on.
And the description there would be, that is dense. That is a thick,
You can almost stand a spoon up.
big, isn't it? You want to write a letter with that, wouldn't you? It's big stuff. But now let's take it the full test and give it a whirl round. First up, the Shiraz. And there's a word lurking in there
It's a
that
heavy player.
describes this wine. Any good? Because it is just a wall of fruit, isn't it, coming
It's
at you?
quite. I mean, there's lots of. I mean, there's more. You know, black curranty. Lots of black currants and
Lots of
things in there.
forest fruits again, I agree.
But do you get a little overtone in there of tar?
Oh,
Oh,
no.
I see what you mean.
Another little whirl. little hint, I've still got little overtones of that tar going on in there. And that's got big, juicy, fruity.
That is, I agree. That is another huge wine.
Big, rich flavours. And it's not for the faint-hearted, is it?
Not for me. It's too much going on. It's too busy. That's too chaotic after a stressful day in the office. I need something a bit more simple.
That's more of what I think is referred to as an attitude adjuster, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
It's a big wallop. Let's go to the old world and try our Chateau du Maris. And here, the nose, I think, will be completely different.
That's harsh. That's hard and flinty and thin soil and.
Do you get a little bit? Do you get a little bit of date? It's sort of oldish, rich fruits. So dried fruits. So I sort of get plum and prune and
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
it's
It's
a
coming
dried fruit.
God,
Not quite, but heading towards Dundee cake almost.
through. Yeah. It's just there's this huge difference
Christmas
between the
cake.
New World ones. Yeah, it's that Christmas. There seems to be this huge difference on the nose between these New World wines, and then the sort of slightly more subtle, or much more subtle, Old World ones. But this is it smells to me like just flinty, poor soil. I mean,
You get the terroir, as the French would call it. You really can taste the land from where it's come. It does have an element of that. In fact, both these wines, when you stick your nose in that Shiraz, you get that feeling of the hot Australian
it is.
summer, don't you? Go and taste it and breathe plenty of air over it, and then see what happens in the mouth. Because I hope when you taste this, my thoughts about New World winemaking coming to France, and although they haven't captured all that fruit on the nose, what they've done on the taste is completely different.
That's actually, it's almost floral bouquet. It's quite delicate. It's more delicate than the aroma of the bouquet would suggest.
And then there's do you get the sweetness immediately, right on the front of the tongue, where you pick up sweetness,
So sweet. It's like a dessert wine.
isn't it? And then it just slowly fades away in the background. And although it looks like quite a humble little wine, this is really quite a complicated wine. We've done Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz / Syrah, and we have crossed various continents. In terms of wine miles we've travelled, it's appalling, I think, what we've done. But we have tasted an enormous breadth of wine here.
I was quite scared about the red wine section because I feel as if I know the least about red wines. I mean, my knowledge of wine in general is very limited, but definitely when it comes to red wine, I know very, very little.
The reds were quite daunting, actually, because 6 of them and covering right the way around the globe. But I feel I learnt a lot, and at the end of the day, actually, it was a return to traditional. I did like that Chefy Chambertin the best.
And getting there, it's all a massive, work in progress. The whole thing is you come away with learning little bits and pieces and little golden nuggets that you can go away and just, read up more on and do more research yourself, really. So it's given me a nice, general, basic knowledge of reds.